Hey, welcome to the Explainer. I want you to picture something. Just a single sheet of paper. Pretty simple, right? Maybe something you just throw away. But what if I told you that inside that one sheet, there's the potential for a whole universe of knowledge? Seriously. Today, we're going to see how we can get from one blank A4 page to, well, the building blocks of just about everything.
I know. It sounds kind of out there, doesn't it? How on earth could a single piece of paper hold an entire library or a whole language? It just doesn't seem possible. But that's the big question we're really going to dig into here. And the answer, the start of our whole journey, it's not some huge, complicated thing. It's actually something small, a really precise little action that honestly feels a bit like a magic trick. It all begins with just one simple fold. All right, first things first, we've got to create our basic building block. We're going to take that flat sheet of paper and turn it into what you might call a microcosmos. This tiny little booklet that's going to be the foundation for, well, everything else we talk about. So here's what we're aiming for. We're going to make a neat, compact 16-page booklet, all from that one A4 sheet. Each of those tiny pages is what's called an A8 format, which is exactly 1/16 the size of the paper we started with. And this little guy, this is our basic unit.
Okay, so how do we do it? How do we actually make one of these? Well, it's this really clever bit of paper engineering. All you need are a few folds and just one single cut. Come on, let's walk through it together.
All right, step one. You start by folding the paper to make a grid. You want a 4x4 grid, which gives you 16 perfect little rectangles. Think of these creases as the blueprint for all the pages. Now, this next part is absolutely crucial. You fold the paper in half, lengthwise, right? And then you're going to make one single cut along that center crease. But here's the trick. You only cut through the 3 intersections. You have to leave the ends connected. And here it comes. This is the magic moment. As you gently push the 2 ends of the paper towards each other, that cut you made in the center just pops open. It's so cool. From there, you just fold it along the creases you already made, and bam, instantly, you've got a book. And there you have it. 16 pages. And think about it, this is all from one sheet of paper. No glue, no staples, nothing extra. Just a few smart folds and one little cut. Okay, so we've made a tiny little notebook. That's pretty cool, right? But now let's totally reframe how we're looking at this. What if it's not just a booklet? What if it's more like a single cell, part of a much, much larger organism? Because this, my friends, is where things get really interesting. All right, let's see how this whole concept builds on itself. We are about to scale this idea way, way up. We're going from one little object to an entire system built from these things. Okay, so let's lock this in. We have one booklet. It's a self-contained unit, and it has 16 pages. 16. Remember that number, it's important. Okay, now let's multiply. Don't just picture one. I want you to imagine making 64 of them. 64. What could you possibly do with that many of these little microbooks? Well, those 64 booklets, they can fit perfectly into a grid, like an 8x8 chessboard. And suddenly, it's not just a messy pile of notebooks anymore. It's an organized system, a matrix. You could even call it a library, just waiting for information to be put inside. So, what kind of information are we talking about? Well, that brings us right to something called the alphabet matrix. Let's check out how this simple paper system can actually hold the building blocks for an entire language. The logic here is actually pretty beautiful. So the source material for this idea uses the Cyrillic alphabet, which has 30 letters, as an example. Now, to make a nice symmetrical system, you could use a 6x6 grid. That gives you 36 spots, right? But if you leave the 4 corner spots empty, you're left with exactly 32 fields. And what does 32 equal? It's the total number of pages in 2 of our little 16-page booklets. See how that works? And this is what it looks like. You can literally map every single letter of the alphabet onto its own specific page. The whole foundation of a written language, perfectly organized in this tiny handmade system that can fit right in the palm of your hand. It's incredible. I mean, just let that sink in for a second.
Every single component you need to write any word, any sentence, any epic novel in a language, it can all be organized inside two little objects that you made yourself just from paper.
But why two? What's so special about pairs? Why does the system work so well that way? Answering that question, well, that takes us to the real philosophical heart of this whole thing.
It really all comes down to duality. Our world is just built on these fundamental pairs. Think about it. Day and night. The 0 and 1 that run all of our computers. A letter and a syllable. And the key thing is, these aren't really opposites. They're complementary parts. You need both to have the complete system. The source material really nails this with a pretty deep thought. It says things must be joined in two to be divisible by two to get half of the whole. What that really means is, to truly get something, it needs to be a complete whole, but you also have to be able to break it down into its core part. And that's really the big takeaway here. Pairs create systems, but it's division that creates understanding. We see this principle everywhere once you start looking for it. It's in our single sheet of paper folding into a book, and it's in letters combining to make a language.
So, I'll leave you with this. We started with just a simple, ordinary piece of paper, and we ended up finding a whole system for a language hiding inside. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other little micro-universes are just sitting there, hidden in the plain, everyday objects we see and ignore every single day? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.